Hello, my name is Paul Rashid, and I'm here with my good friend, colleague, psychiatrist, and screenwriter and novelist, DC Fidler. And today we're going to be talking about the creative process of editing and writing. Some things that we really enjoy collaborating with and discussing.
Absolutely.
And this came up because we were talking yesterday, catching up, and we were talking about your work, Boogeyman, and you were sharing me, I asked you how many times you've edited Boogeyman, and what was your answer?
So on the play, not counting the novel, I don't know the amount of times, but from the floor up, I have a pile of discarded drafts this tall. Yep. And so I don't know, 60, 70, 100, 120. I don't know how many times.
The funny thing I found is that for me, editing is challenging. I'm getting better at it, but I think you really enjoy editing.
I love editing. It's like being a sculptor. So you first write the thing, throw it all out there, and then it's like throwing plaster out there and let it harden a little bit. And then editing's like chipping away, and as you chip away, you don't see less, you see more. If the sculptor's good, you see more. And to me, that's what editing is. So editing is my favorite thing, and I enjoy editing friends' works.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for I know you've helped me in the past and given some feedback. So let's start with the writing process, getting it out there.
Yes.
What are some takeaways of just starting with writing?
What fascinates me, and what is something I think that would really entertain people, and immediately, how can I make the stakes high? And I can't start censoring myself. I can't say, ooh, that's too much, or that's too strong, or that's too wicked, or too sweet, or, no, go full blast and just vomit it out onto the page, as some people say, and just get it out there, uninhibited. Doesn't matter if scenes are out of order, it's not disorganized, but I also try to write the first scene and the last scene immediately as first things, because I want to know, okay, these characters that I have to create interesting characters, but what's the farthest journey they can take together? And even if it seems like I don't think they can get all the way from A to Z, doesn't matter.
You'll figure that out. You'll discover that in the process.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great tip, because you need to know where you're starting from and where you're going. And that might change over time, but that's a great little trick for writers, because sometimes I've talked to people that will start writing and they don't know where they're going. So I like that.
And
tip.
every line you write is going that direction. Yeah.
And I like how you just say, you're not censoring. So
No
getting it
censoring.
out, just get it on the page. You can censor later, but if you start censoring in the beginning, you might not discover something that you otherwise would.
You may not discover, or at the worst, you hear people who say they have writer's block. They're just censoring it already, so they can't get it out.
Get it out there. I love it. And then you had mentioned this concept of like sculpting. So then one way of how do you start approaching the editing process and maybe removing?
So I don't do it systematically. I start doing all kinds of editing as I'm going through, but I start making sure the story is possible, or even in fantasy, that it's possible in that kind of fantasy. So that's one big general kind of thing, and I start doing technical research, like okay, there was a war going on in Afghanistan. Well, what years and which places and what was happening, and pulling in consults, like a friend of mine, Major R.J. Casey, for military consults, because I'm writing a war story, even though I've treated a lot of patients who've been in combat. and have a lot of information from them and friends.
And what would that do? So for instance, maybe if you're in this case, we're talking about Boogie Band. It's a story about a military. And what did you learn from having that consultant? What were
some about the language, like I would use wrong language. I had the psychiatrist who'd been in Vietnam before he finished college and med school, and then I had him say he re-enlisted. Well, RJ pointed out, no, he became a physician. You don't re-enlist, you take a direct commission. Because people in the audience are going to know, what do you mean re-enlist? Well, to me that sounded good. So having some people look over your shoulder, searching, Googling things, just finding out as much truth as you can and check your sources. So it can be accurate. I mean, if you're making up Star Wars, you can make up some things. But when it's about some very real incidents, you've got to research it. Then making my characters very differentiated. So I give them different language. I love to play with language, have the grammar of one be very different from the grammar of the other, the pronunciation. I'll write some of that in there, be very different. Choice of words, vocabulary, very different. And their backstories to reflect in their dialogue, what they're saying. So at first they may be more similar to one another, and then they keep becoming more differentiated.
Right. More specific. As the character becomes more individual.
Yes. And then getting specific in what they say, like the soldier may say, we ate some fruit over there. Okay. Well, what fruit was in Afghanistan? Pomegranate? What were the smells in the air from the cooking fires, from the onions, a kind of cooking oil that makes a smell that's almost nowhere else in the world, because it's from burning the oil in sheep tails. So just finding out those specifics, and it'll transport people to these places and be accurate. Yeah.
One thing we've also talked about is going from a more passive writing style to an active writing style.
Yes, just hearing past participles and that just wears people down. Like, I had gone to the store, I have thought about that. No, I think about that. I went to the store, where it's active. And that may sound like a little thing for a couple sentences, but when it's a full play, a full research paper, it wears people down, it tires them. And it's not direct to the action. So you want a very active voice. And getting rid of those phrases that distance you from it. Like all of us have little phrases, anchor phrases. We say, presidents of the United States, they studied them. Like one may say, let me say this about that. And it's something that's thoughtless, that gives you a little time to think about what you're going to say. But that is just in the way of action.
It's a filler.
And when we go to a play, read a book, we want it to get right to it. So you get rid of those phrases. Now, I was thinking yesterday, maybe you should do that.
All right, and that's how we might speak that way.
We speak that.
But in the written form, that's going to wear out your audience. That's going to wear out the reader.
And so instead, I would just go direct. You should do that. And if I want to raise the stakes, I would even go do that. So get rid of the qualifiers and all, so it just moves it along faster than most life is, because you want the story to not be dragging out.
And you also mentioned it's important of where you put the emphasis in the sentence.
The most important word needs to go at the end of the sentence. So if I say I took the Humvee out into the desert, or out in the desert we took the Humvee, well, the actor is going to emphasize the last word in good acting. So out in the desert, we took the Humvee, or we took the Humvee out into the desert. You put that emphasis on that last word, and you do that so the next character responds to that last word.
Wow.
And it just moves it right along.
It goes into a flow.
And you don't have to even think back a few words. And the audience is just, they don't know why, but they know they're on a speedy trip.
Yeah.
And it's that little trip. And it's a gift to an actor to write it that way.
You've heard that feedback from actors?
Oh yeah, they love that. They love that.
Wow.
And Shakespeare knew that. A lot of great writers have always done that. Yeah.
Any last takeaways on writing or editing?
Just raise those stakes. Don't inhibit yourself while you're first getting it out there. Then you can really dig into it and find better ways, more accurate ways, more specific ways to raise the stakes and keep it moving. So you can do that later. You can move scenes around. If two characters sound too much alike, you collapse them into one character. There should never be a line in there that you go, well, any of the characters could have said that. Maybe in a crowd scene, a little bit.
It's been fun, and one thing we always love talking about, and how we can raise our own stakes of writing and editing and sharing more with the world. And so people can find you at dcfidler.com to find out more.
Yes.
And also, I just want to mention your one book, Psychiatry for Actors.
Textbook for psychiatry for actors, yes.
And that was, I think, written to help actors and writers understand some of the emotional aspects of their characters, right?
Yes, and to present psychiatric disorders, human growth and development in respectful, accurate ways, because often that's missing in films or theater, television.
Wonderful. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Paul.